Okay, I'll start it now. Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and participants, good evening. We are living in a moment of profound transition, one that in many ways feels both uncertain and historically significant. As we closely observe developments in our immediate neighborhood, particularly in our West, we are reminded that the global politics is no longer unfolding in distant abstractions, but in realities that directly shape our region. At the same time, the Western led liberal international order, once widely seen as the dominant and universal framework, is increasingly being questioned. Its assumptions, which appeared firmly entrenched even during the post Cold War era, no longer committed to the same degree of consensus. What we are witnessing instead is the gradual rise of Global South, alongside a renewed emphasis on civilizational identity, history, and geography as a defining force in the world politics. It is within this shifting landscape that Eurasia emerges as a region of profound strategic and intellectually significant, and where Pakistan occupies a unique pivotal position. In this regard, it becomes extremely important to examine Pakistan's position, and that is why we invited the most influential and widely debated scholar of our time, Professor Alexander Dugin. Professor Dugin is the director of the Tsargrad Institute and the founder of International Eurasian Movement. His particular expertise in the civilizational identity, multipolarity, global strategy is widely recognized and requires little introduction. Through his writings, speeches, and public engagements, he has consistently examined the ways in which regional and civilizational frameworks can redefine global politics beyond Western centric perspectives. Among his most influential contributions are the foundations of geopolitics and fourth political theory. And this theory is impressive. It's interesting because it challenges other paradigms, liberalism, communism, and fascism, and while proposing that alternative framework rooted in culture, history, and civilizational identity. His lectures and prior engagements are explored the intersection of the geopolitics, strategy, and philosophy, emphasizing the strategic significance of Eurasia and emerging role of non-Western powers. Today's lecture also reflects an important institutional milestone. Last year, CAPS formalized a memorandum of understanding with the Tsargrad Institute, marking a significant step toward deepening academic exchange, research collaborations, and intellectual dialogues across Eurasia. Today's session is the first lecture of our guest lecture series under this partnership, and it embodies CAPE's commitment to fostering rigorous scholarship and informed discourse. Before we start, here I want to announce two things. One is the session is going to be recorded, and following this, we are going to have a question and answer session in the end. And I kindly request all the participants to submit their questions in the chat box during the talk. And please keep your questions concise and focused on the topic. And we will try to take as many questions as time permit. So with this is my greatest privilege to invite Professor Alexander Dugin to deliver his lecture. Professor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. That is a great honor to speak with Pakistanis scholars and students and public in general. So I will try to speak about many things at the same time. So excuse me if I will be a bit confused, because there are so many topics we need to consider now, and we need to consider them from different angles of view. Some of them conventional, some of them unconventional. So we need to be very attentive to the reality that is around us. So we need to make efforts to understand better the processes that are around us, and some of them are known, and some of them are almost totally unknown. So we need to be open, speaking about the modernity, about the war Israel, American, Iranian war, the war between Russia and Ukraine, the war between Pakistan and Afghanistan as well, very important conflict. So we need to take this openly. So if we follow the prejudices, we will arrive nowhere. So we need to be open, not to exchange some slander, some slogans, you are wrong, you are right, we are good, you are bad. So we need to overcome that. We need to find some special terrain, some special field where we could speak about very difficult things, more or less not going beyond some limits, some philosophical level of discussion. So that is, I would like to remind about necessity to follow this philosophical approach in our analysis. So first of all, we need to make the general picture of what is going on, where we are in the world. Everybody of us, everybody. So all of us, Indian, Pakistanis, Russian, Israelis, Iranians, Americans, Europeans, Chinese, Japanese, all of us now are in the shift. It is not just chaos. It is not just totally unprevisible, unpredictable reality, as it seems from time to time. No, it is not just chaos. It is transformation. It is the bridge. It is the passage from one global architecture to the other one. So that is important. We are on the passage, and this passage, it is not easy thing. So we are going from unipolarity to the multipolarity. But unipolarity was not thought enough because it was the new balance of power that arrived after the fall of the Soviet Union. And after the fall, before, there was bipolarity, two camps, two ideological and geopolitical camps existed before 1991, and that was the other architecture of the international politics. Two poles, and only these two poles were sovereign. But that is very important. The real sovereignty, geopolitical sovereignty, belonged during Cold War era to only two real players, who possessed the huge amount of the nuclear weapon, and that were Russia, Soviet camp, Warsaw Pact, and capitalist camp with Washington and NATO. So only two superpowers were really sovereign. All the rest of humanity was divided by these two poles. That was bipolarity. So if you, for example, was against United States of America or the capitalist camp, you should approach Soviet pole. If you are against Soviet communism, something like that, you should approach to the United States of America. All the map, world map, was divided on two circles of the reality, and the national sovereignty was already hypocrisy, nothing but hypocrisy. So only these two superpowers possessed the real sovereignty. All the other were not sovereign. And when this bipolar system crashed, was dismantled by Soviet Union itself, it wasn't so much the strike from outside. That was inner collapse. So the Soviet camp collapsed. And after the end of the Soviet Union and Warsaw Pact, there was the so-called unipolar moment, or unipolar architecture of world relations. That was glorified by End of the History by Fukuyama as End of the History by Francis Fukuyama, and it seemed at that time that new global world order is established. But once more, in this unipolar world, there was only one point of sovereignty. Not any other country was considered to be really sovereign. Only the sovereignty can be distributed and supported and granted by the one pole of the world, by the hyperpower, not just superpower, but as Vedren, French Minister Vedren has said, that was hyperpower. The American hyperpower was the unique pole that could say you are sovereign or not. So that was the new map, unipolar map. And during the 90s of the last century, this global world order was almost here, almost established, with only one type of political system, liberalism, only parliamentarism, secularism, liberalism, the ideology of individualism, of the human right, and that was global, with market economy, and with liberal concept, with LGBT, with uncontrolled migration, with woke ideology, and this global unipolar system was almost established. So nobody was really sovereign, including European Union wasn't sovereign, just the part of the global West, of this world government. And now we see what kind of networks promoted this global government. It is not just conspiracy theory. It is everything is in Epstein's files now. We see not just the perversion of this illegal, illegitimate Western elite, but we see the connections, the plans, the ideas to promote global domination of the Western elite over the humanity. So that is very important. But against that, from the very beginning of the 2000s, started something different. Started something that was called by Samuel Huntington as clash of civilizations. But we should not so much emphasize the word stress, clash, but we need to emphasize the word civilizations with the S and plural. So that was the new world order, not unipolar, but with new actors. Not anymore national states that weren't sovereign already from long time ago, from starting from the 30s of the 20th century. So and so on. But that was the multipolar world that was foreseen by Huntington. So new actors, civilizational states, not just national state, but civilizational state, the civilizations as actor. And these multipolar world order started to emerge with two main factors. First of all, the growth of China, and the Chinese civilizational state emerged from the periphery of the world economy as the global player. It was not just continuation of the West. That was the new reality. The China in the last 20 years became something very special. China became the pole that challenged unipolarity. And with Xi Jinping presidency, it has arrived at a very concrete point with ideological declarations, with Belt and Road initiative, with global independent and sovereign politics of China. So China challenged unipolarity and has shown the great example of the huge success in that, in economy and technology, and the politics, and the manner to administrate politics. So that Chinese model was something more than just adaptation of the liberalism. That was new paradigm. That wasn't socialism only, classical socialism. That wasn't capitalism. That was a kind of synthesis between them, with the main part of the Confucianist ideology, less visible from outside, but very strong inside of China. So I have met my friend, Jas Akram, Pakistani friend, precisely, who is deceased now in Beijing, speaking about how important the Chinese tradition, Confucianist tradition, was in Chinese society. So the other pole that emerged during that time, that was Putin's Russia, not Yeltsin's Russia. Putin's Russia. This is just not Russia as such. That was Putin played a crucial role in transformation of the Russia as the secondary regional power into something much more important. And that was the second pole of multipolarity. I think that was the beginning of the end of the unipolar moment. So that was the beginning of the end of the unipolarity. At the same time, we see the growth of the India, and India pretends to be much more than just Eastern democracy. It, in many aspects, India tries to affirm itself as the civilizational state, independent and sovereign. It is on this road. It is not accomplished yet, but it is the kind of plan. And Modi's government precisely is about that. At the same time, in Islamic world, more and more we consider the tendencies to establish Islamic society, Islamic Muslim civilization as something independent, something totally sovereign. And I think in that sense, we could speak about that much more. That Pakistan is one of the pillars of that, because it is the unique Muslim power, Muslim state with the nuclear weapon. So I think that is extremely important position, because today nuclear weapon is almost it's almost the same as sovereignty. So the unique Islamic state with nuclear weapon, it could be a pillar of this emerging Islamic civilizational state. The other pillar, I think, that is Shia Iran. Pakistan is mostly Sunni, but Iran is Shia, and it was very close to obtain to get nuclear weapon. That was the reason of the war with Israel. So Iran was on the same path, on the same wave to establish independent and totally sovereign Islamic pole, mostly Shia. So the radicality of the Shia governments of Iran and the fact to possess a nuclear weapon by Pakistan, that these are two very important pillars of this possible civilizational state of Islamic civilization. There are the other player. So the serious player is Turkey, that is in control of the Eastern Mediterranean space. There is big player of Indonesia and Malaysia in Southern Asia as well. Two Islamic, very important state with growing feeling of total independency from and trying to establish them as the sovereign poles. And there are obviously Arab world that shows itself today outside of the Shia part as very weak position. So it is much more on the side of the Israel and United States. Salafi line, it is just tool of CIA and MI6. So that, I think, that is the great failure that we see. So now, for example, Saudi Arabia or Egypt or other great Islamic Arab states, they behave themselves in this conflict between Israel and Gaza, Israel and Lebanon, Israel and Iran in very weak position. So they are hesitating between two poles. They don't behave themselves as not only as sovereign pole of Islamic world, but they don't behave themselves as someone who aspires to become sovereign pole. That is very deplorable. I would say this with behavior, and the other may be radical, maybe negative powers. But for example, Afghanistan behaves itself in very aggressive way. It is now in the fight against your country, so it is clear. But it shows some degree of the independence of the sovereignty. So we should recognize that. So, for example, I could recognize that Ukraine as well, being the part of the West, fighting against us with the support of the globalists, in the same time shows some elements, some degree of independence and sovereignty, including our enemies, Ukrainians, Zelensky, but they show that. That is why I started with some suggestion to stay a bit beyond the concrete political position. So we need to understand the reality of the enemies as well. So that is very important. So, and what is we have now? We have now this transition from the unipolarity as well to the multipolarity. So transition, but it is not granted. It is not natural. It is not easy. It is not finished. It is just in the process, and we see how the other pole begin to form, begin to appear in Africa, the state of Sahel, with Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. As well, there is the resistance against North American hegemony among Latin American countries, Venezuela, Cuba, Brazil now, and so on. So we see that unipolar world is ending, and that is the wave. That is the wave, the declining tendency. And we see at the same time this multipolar world is ascending, is rising. It is the other contrary wave curve that is on the rise, and they intersect. So they are acting. So one wave is that's in the fall, the other is on the rise, but they are interacting now. And we could not say, oh, unipolarity has ended and multipolarity has started, has begun. Not yet. The point of no return is not reached yet. That is most important condition of where we are on the global politics. So at the same time, we could follow, we could trace the same shift on the ideological level. The global liberalism, the Western values are in deep decline in the West and outside the West. So there is the growing rise of the rejection of the liberalism, globalism, individual, LGBT, woke, transsexual, sexual forms of life. So there is a kind of growing rejection of the rest in front of the decadence of the West. So the rest against the West, as Huntington has formulated that. So we see geopolitically rise of multipolarity against the decline of unipolarity. On the level of ideology, we see the decline of the liberalism, decline of globalism, and the rise of alternative traditional civilization, and that is the rise of religions. And the religious factor is growing more and more and more in the West than the West in other parts of the world, in Asia, in Eurasia, in Russia, in China, India, Hindutva, in Islamic world, the growth of Islam, in traditional values of Africa, or Catholicism of Latin America. But we see, paradoxically, that the same religious factors begin to be very important for United States with their dispensationalism, with their obsession with evangelical Christian Zionism that defines some concrete military steps of the U.S. government. And we see clearly in the case of Netanyahu, the religious Zionism, preparation for the coming of Messiah, acceleration of the time in front of the coming of the Jewish Messiah, with the destruction of Mosque Al-Aqsa, prohibition of the prayer. This Ramadan was first time for the during existence of the Israel that the common prayer in Mosque Al-Aqsa was prohibited by Zionist governments, as well. The church where the tomb of crucifixion of Christ is prohibited to the people to get there, and so that is the huge religious crisis in Jerusalem. And maybe that is clear. Ben Gvir and the other Zionists, they said openly that they are going to blow up the Mosque Al-Aqsa in order to start the creation, the building of the third temple, elimination on sacrifice of the red heifer, red cow, and creation of Great Israel. That explains what they are doing in the Middle East. So these religious elements, they are emerging also against the secular, rationalist, materialist, economist vision of the reality. That is as the other feature of the modern moment. So the long forgotten eschatologies, mystical traditions, they reappear, they re-emerge under our eyes. So that is very important. The same in Russia. We speak more and more about Katechan, about sacred empire and the sacred mission of the Christian. Orthodox Church, Russian Christian Orthodox Church, in the scenario of the end time. More and more, the discourse is growing in Russia in the highest level in the society. So where we are, we are in the situation of the change, of the shift from unipolar, liberal, materialist, secular, economic-centric, technological, purely technocentric world that seemed to be established after the fall of the Soviet Union, with unique ideology, with unique economical system, with the same set of liberal individualistic values imposed on all over societies through the world, over all the humanity. And now we see how the forgotten continents of unconsciousness, of religion, of civilization, deep ancient civilization, how they reappear now under our eyes, forming alternative multipolar world order. So, but what that is the main map, eschatological, geopolitical map of contemporary world affairs, international scene. At the same time, we could see that this shift isn't easy. It isn't natural. So we see how the different participants, different players, how they are polarized during this period. So, for example, many of us, for example, myself personally, I hoped that the election of Trump would give to the world the possibility to accept multipolarity more or less by the peace. So Trump claimed no more interventions, no more globalism, no more these liberal values, no more global government. Let us concentrate on inner domestic American problem. No more expansion of democracy. And he has criticized very harshly, radically, Democrats and globalists, deep state. And that was a possible scenario how transition from the ending unipolarity could be accomplished toward multipolarity without Third World War, World War III, without the escalation of the violence and the hatred and the wars. So if we read correctly the program of election of Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, we see that was the promise to accomplish this shift peacefully, to establish America as one of the poles, maybe the greater, maybe the best, maybe the more influential, but accepting existence of other great Russia, great China, great Islamic world, great Europe, great India, great Africa, great Latin America. That was the promise to accomplish this transition without the war. And all that was totally lost, totally overthrown, I would say. So what Trump has begun to do in the reality after being elected, that was radically contrary to everything he has promised. So that was quite opposite, absolutely opposite. And the majority of his followers, his supporters, they have remarked that, well, starting with firing of Elon Musk from Doge, refusing to publish Epstein's files, and after that, intervention, first the war against Iran, intervention in Venezuela, continuation of the fueling the war in Ukraine against us, the same politics of sanctions, the same CIA operation to overthrow the regime change operation. Everything was totally like before, but with very important difference. Trump's rule is without Musk. It is not hegemony based on the ideology, based on values, so-called, based on promotion of liberal agenda. No, that is the brutal, rude, cruel power. Nothing but power. The power to kill, power to steal, power to oblige everybody other to accept domination. That is the pure hegemony without Musk. But that is unipolarity. Trump wants to save unipolarity at any price. Trump wants to dictate the price of the oil, to control the oil of Venezuela, to control the government in Iran, control the world, with Israel that wants to control Middle East. So that is the pure and unmasked direct hegemony. And that is not multipolarity in nothing. That is the war against multipolarity. And American politicians and influencers who support this hegemony, they openly declare that United States of America now is in war against BRICS, against the rest, against multipolarity, in order to save, to secure, and to reaffirm the global power of United States of America over the humanity. So Trump behaves himself as the unique master of the humanity, not just first among the equals, as was the position of Biden or Obama or George Bush Jr. But that is the unique master that could give the orders to the vassals in Europe, to the vassals in the Arab Gulf monarchies in the Middle East, to the vassals in Latin America, to Malay, to the vassals in Africa, to the vassals in all other countries. And if someone doesn't want to be such vassal or slave, the Prime Minister of Belgium has said that the difference between vassal and slaves is very, very, very small. So we could not. It could disappear. So if you are vassal in some radical situation, you become a slave. So that slave. Vassal / slave is the same. And if, for example, the globalists before Trump, they emphasized the quality of vassals, now Trump treats the vassals as the slaves. But that is the same. But that is the difference of rhetoric, not the essence of the things, not nature of the things. And if you don't want to be vassal / slave of United States of America, you automatically become the enemy of United States of America. You become immediately rogue state, and they start to bomb you, to organize, to start a regime change operation. against you. They make defamation of you. They accuse you to be anti-Semite, racist, rogue, theocracy, religious, everything. So anti-human, terrorist. So all the insults serve for that, and they don't hear what you say in your defense, because you are already damned according to them. That is one way vision. So the master says that is so, and the slaves should applaud. Yes, master. Yes, master. You are right. That is the pure hegemony, pure unipolarity, but maybe without values. That is just about the strength, the force, the power. So we can and we do, say Americans today. Not because it's good or democratic or progressive. No, because we can. We have the power and we have the interest, so you should comply. Otherwise, we will kill you. We will destroy you. We will transform you in Gaza, in Palestine or in Iran. We will just destroy you. That is agony of unipolarity. So when the Trump came, he came as the hope to make the transition from unipolarity to the multipolarity more or less peaceful, more or less harmonious, more or less natural. But after 1 week or 2 weeks in White House, he totally changed the agenda. Maybe he seemed very inconsistent today, always changing the ideas, but he followed the main force line. He follows the idea of the hegemony, direct, powerful, strong hegemony. He is fighting multipolarity. He is fighting all poles at the same time of the multipolarity. He is continuing to fuel Ukrainian war against our pole. He is fighting in Middle East against Shia Iranian pole in the Middle East. He is preparing to fight against the China and Taiwan. He is fighting the war against independent and pretending to be sovereign states in Latin America, in Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, and Cuba. He is preparing to destroy, to crush Cuba, and finally he treats in the same way the European NATO alliance. He is directing to Greenland as well. Trump wants to keep for this unipolar pillar, American pillar, everything that he needs. So I think, and that is the global war against multipolarity, not against just Iran or Russia or China, against Islam, against the Chinese civilization, against India, against Africa, against Latin America. It is unipolarity against multipolarity. And with Trump, this fight, this war of unipolarity, ending unipolarity against rising multipolarity, became radical. And this escalation seems to grow more and more. And new fronts could be opened, but the main map where we are, that is extremely important, because our regional, local conflicts, they don't let us to understand the whole picture. So we are concentrate, for example, fighting against our Afghanistan for you, fighting against Ukrainians for us, for Russian, fighting against Japanese or Taiwanese for China. We are a kind of attracted hypnotized by the regional conflicts, and the global picture avoids our understanding. That is wrong. We need always remember this larger frame of the events. Global geopolitics, global shift of unipolarity toward multipolarity, and global decline of liberal ideology and emergence of the new ideological visions based on the refuse to accept the Western values as something universal. That is very important. So all other non-Western civilizations now try to find in their own identity, in their history, alternative set of values, alternative world vision concerning ethics, concerning social structures, politics, including science, humanitarian education. So that is the big revival of the peoples, of the civilizations, and there is ongoing process of liberation from this colonization of spirits that was accomplished by the West during last centuries. So that is maybe the final stage of decolonization, a deep decolonization, the decolonization of minds, not just political or social decolonization. So that is the last stage. And on this last stage, when the people of the world, when different religions, when Islam, Orthodox Christianity, Indian tradition, Confucianism, African religions, or Latin American Catholicism start to liberate finally from the Western globalist liberal agenda. In that same moment, the West has found the maniac, the old crazy mad pedophile Trump, in order to crush this process, to totally destroy all the poles of the resistance they appear in the world, in different societies. So, and to conclude a bit my explanation of this global map, I would suggest one thing. So now we see interesting redistribution of the centers in the West. The global collective West today represent five poles. There is Trump's United States. There is Israel that plays not just regional role, but now we see a huge scandal in the United States of America. It is discovery of the role that Zionism plays in American politics. That the number one question. So Americans never grasped how great the importance, the role of the Israel inside of American politics is. So now Israel is not local, regional phenomenon, it's global phenomenon, is the one of the pillar of the collective West with its own agenda, very special. So it is second pole. There is European EU countries where, for example, very important now, it is growing populism. So in France and in Germany these days, the radically anti-liberal forces have gained a huge victory. AfD in Germany and Marine Le Pen in France. That is very significant. So there is the alternative agenda that is rising up, maybe negative. I don't support that unconditionally. So, but it is very important that it's new Europe, new continental Europe is awakening. There is that is this third pole. There is Britain, that is England, that is not just the continuation of United States, that is not just the part of the Europe, that is power in itself. And the fifth power of the collective West today, it is globalism. The Democrats in the United States, the partly EU establishment, that they formed a particular force. Not they very negative. They have negative attitude toward Trump and Netanyahu, but they are at the same time very positive attitude toward Zelensky and the war with Russia. So that is the other aspect of this West. So the priorities, the main geopolitical and ideological priorities are different among these five pillars of the West. And I think the same we see in the civilizations of the humanity, because the China has its own civilizational identity. Islamic world has plural metaphysical identities that we need to study, we need to consider, we need to research more and more carefully, because there is the growing different interesting Islamic project. In Iraq, I'm staying in context, there are people who promote the idea of restoration of the Abbasid Empire 2.0. Very interesting, with the capital in Babylon, the Kufa. So that is the kind of restoration of third caliphate, not second Umayyads, nor neither second nor fourth Ottoman, but third. Very interesting idea. So we need to pay attention to these projects, how to oppose the globalist unipolar pressure, basing on the alternative ideologies, geopolitical projects. Russia is clearly is in favor of Eurasian idea, so Eurasian continental idea based on geopolitical approach, based on this mystical catechonic function of Russia, and as well promoting multipolarity as the political philosophy. That is clear in our case. So we started some time ago to make theory of multipolarity, the theory of civilizational state, the theory to elaborate the theory of the Westernology. So how to treat the West as the regional phenomenon, not universal, not global. That's very important kind of studies that we are doing here in Russia. Something like that about the specificity of Chinese civilization and development of China as the idea of China as civilizational state is going on in China with my friend Chang Weiwei, a professor of Fudan University, the director of China Institute, and many other. So there are the thoughts how to construct, how to shape the reality of multipolar world. So many Islamic scholars, Imran Hussein, for example, very, very important as well, my friend Imran Hussein, promoted that from many decades already, this multipolar vision with new distribution of alliances of ideological rules. So the same in Iran, the same in other country, the same in Africa. So more and more authors from Africa start now to publish, to form their own vision of African future in Ethiopia, in Mali, in other countries, in Congo. Recently, one author, African author, Lushima, has written a very interesting book about Congo as civilizational state on Africa. So this kind of thought about, and all that's outside, the same in Latin America and other civilization, in India as well. So what is important to overcome this hypnosis of the Western Western-centric reality. The West is not universal. Neither of these five pillars of the collective West is universal, and all of them together are not universal. They are Western, and we need to promote independent world vision, not Western centered. So that is Westernology. How look at the West as the object, not as the subject. So we need to reverse the roles. That was colonizational process of all of us by the West. We need decolonize our mind and start to make relations to the West as to the subject that we study, that we take in consideration. Not necessarily we should criticize everything. No, it is not about that. We need to do quite different operation. We need to refuse to consider everything Western as universal. It is just part. The technological project, materialism, atheism, secularism, LGBT, individualism, all that is Western. Good or bad, but not necessary, not universal, not obligatory. That is the point. So I think this kind of studies should be promoted in the humanity and including in the West itself, because there are so many people in the West who don't accept their agenda, they contest and they refuse their own hegemony. So we have extremely the huge quantity, huge number of the people in the West who share with us our liberational strategy on the left and on the right as well. So that is important to have the connections with them, because we need finally we need to liberate the West, the West from itself also, not just liberate us from the West, but the West from the West itself, in order to restore their own life, inner life, their own sacredness, their own tradition. They have lost with the modernity, and they have perverted totally in the contemporary state of things. So that is more or less my take. Thank you once more for your attention, for inviting me, and now I am ready to enter in discussion, key and a section, if you please. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor. It was really insightful, and many of the scholars in Pakistan, we often talk about, we should not be looking toward the West to take it as a universal object, but we should be looking toward it as a decolonization aspect. Moving toward the answer question session, I would like to, Professor, humbly pay our respect as we see the picture of Daria Dugin in your background, and we know that she was a committed voice of Eurasianism, educating a multipolar world rooted in dignity and sovereignty. She was a brave voice indeed, and we read about her time and again. And brave souls like Daria, it reminds us that the fight for the truth and sovereignty demands sacrifice. May her memory and her ideas live on. And with that, I'll move forward to one question, although we got penalty of questions, but the question one is that war in Iran has raised multiple questions in recent weeks. One of the questions has been about alliance commitments. We have seen that China and Russia have not actively supported Iran in the event of US aggression as we had widely been anticipated. In the contrast, we see that US and allies have been always been on the same page, with it coming to the support US actions militarily, diplomatically, or even economically in terms of sanctions. When can we expect similar collective response from Eurasian powers like Russia and China, maybe in a coalition like BRICS or independently?
So I agree. That is a bit strange. So we see that the United States with Trump, and before Trump as well, in Syria, in Gaza, in Lebanon, they used to employ the strategy. So they fight one enemy after other. And to the other enemies, potential virtual enemy, they say, oh, no, it is not about you. Please stay aside. It doesn't concern you. It is not directed against you. Be quiet. Be calm. And after then they come to Hezbollah. After then they come to Iran. After then they will come to Russia, to China, one by one. And I don't understand really. Why we are so passive? Maybe we are not passive at all because we are living in the world of the smoke of the war. So many things are hidden. Maybe we say one thing, but are doing some other thing. I'm not sure, but I think that maybe hiddenly and secretly, China and Russia are very, very much deeply involved in Iranian war, and I have some reasons to believe that because there is no protest that neither Russia nor China help to Iran from Iranian parts. Nowhere. Neither in networks nor among diplomats, nobody in Iran deplored the lack of the help from the Russian side and Chinese side. That is very, very, very eloquent, I would say. Many people who are in favor of Iran, against Israel, against the United States, they accuse us. Russia accused China to be passive in that situation. They are morally very, very, very correct, but maybe we don't know anything that is going on in the battlefield, in the reality, in the economy, in the technology, maybe in the field of the nuclear weapon. Nobody could say whether either Iran has nuclear weapon or not. And maybe it is not just their own creation, but maybe they have received that already. So it is not sure. Nobody could be sure about such things. So first of all, that is the main consideration. The second point I would like to emphasize that we indeed we lack the common strategy. The multipolarity, it is a kind of natural reaction against unipolarity more than conscious strategy. I try, and many people in the world, we are trying to promote multipolarity at the level of the not reaction, but proactive position, creating the alliances, including helping each other in the critical situation, military, politically. That creates, by the way, some problem because there are, for example, India and China inside of multipolarity, and in some regional situation, they have different position. The Sunni and Shia as well have some inner contradictions. They prohibit to develop more and more this multipolar common strategy. So there are objective reasons, and the enemy plays over them. They use them in order to divide us. So that is, and we need to overcome that. First of all, during the narrative, during the conversations, during the talks, during the discourse. So we need to promote the common multipolar discourse that we should adapt to Russian values, to Pakistani values, to Indian, Chinese, Islamic, Shia, Africa. So we need to adjust the theory of multipolar world to the regional, the domestic, the indigenous cultures. And that is necessary step to get further and to start to create military alliances between us as well, defending each other when we are aggressed by unipolarity. But, for example, from time to time, India makes step in favor of Israel, of United States. So making weakening the BRICS, the other countries as well. So we need to overcome all that. We need to find a real common civilizational, strategical, common denominator on the level of the metaphysics, on the geopolitics, on the thought, and that is not yet achieved. So we need to work on that, promote that, and maybe if we are successful, situation with the supporting each other when we are attacked by the enemy will be different that we see now. If we know the truth, maybe the truth is a bit different.
Yes, interesting. Professor, there is another question related to Pakistan. And so it says that Pakistan's current foreign policy emphasizes geoeconomics and maintain a delicate balance between Washington and Beijing. Can a middle power like Pakistan truly maintain a neutrality in a multipolar world? And there is another question related to it, that how do you see Pakistan's strategic position in Eurasia? What is your analysis?
So first of all, I think that Pakistan is a great country. So Pakistan, it is not just one of the country that is the key player by geopolitics, by the geographical position, by the history, great history. That is precisely Islamic Indian, the part of Islamic Indian Empire. So that is very important Central Asian power. And I think that neutrality it is just the moment. It could not be neutrality. Could not be strategy. So that is just a situational decision. So I think that Pakistan is in search of its position in the world, and if, for example, you accept. Not the position between unipolarity and multipolarity. You will be torn apart. You will be splitted by the major global pillar of. You will be used. Either by ones or by others. So there is no position between unipolarity and multipolarity because they are contradictional projects, and they are two waves. They are now today both, but they are in contradiction. So that is, I don't think that is stable or long-standing correct strategy. It is just situational position. I think that the role of Pakistan as a great traditional society and civilization is absolutely not with the West, but with the multipolarity. So, and if you start to accept that Pakistan is the part of multipolar worlds, and that I think that is why you have joined Shanghai Association and other multipolar clubs. So, but if you accept that, so after that you have chosen already the camp, and after that you try to find your place. Of the place of Pakistan and multipolarity. It is not to adhere uncritically to Chinese politics or to Russian or to India and so on. It is impossible. So Pakistan is too big, too great, too independent and too sovereign to be just the prolongation of some others, other polarity. So I think Pakistan should try to establish, to promote, to define its own sovereignty, its own civilizational statehood somehow, and its place, the place of Pakistan in Islamic world can be very, very important, but you need to define it. Now, I think, so that's my vision. So maybe I have missed something. Please.
No. So it's a long way to go, I believe. Well, the next question, Professor, is that Eurasianism to Russia is whether a question of civilizational identity or related to its global geopolitics or more geoeconomics in nature? And where does Pakistan stand respectively?
So I think that in modern world, geopolitics, strategy, economy, and religion and civilization are intertwined. They are they form something common. So we could not say, for example, economy first, military cooperation second, and religion third. No, the balance and the importance of all these civilization factors are intermingled. We could not say clearly where this aspect is most important or other. So I think that we need to rethink and to rebuild, to redraw the complexity of international relations concerning Pakistan, concerning multipolarity, Russia, and the other powers. So we need to refound the science of international relations, where all these levels, all these layers will be accepted. So I think we should not reduce relation to Pakistan or Pakistan with other powers only to some factors. So that is reductionism. Reductionism, that is liberal Western attitude. So put aside everything that is not material, not sensible. No, that is wrong. Absolutely wrong. So we need to take in consideration all the layers of the reality, and I think that spiritual and cultural civilization reality is in some moments much more important than economy or material aspects.
Excellent. Professor, here comes the question about Japan, and I would like to know your comment about the recent visit of Japanese administration to US. Huntington saw Japan as another one of those civilizations in clash. How do you see Japan's position toward regarding its domestic policies, its foreign policy? Is Japan in a position of wanting to seek independence, or is it, in your opinion, fine with being in an American camp?
So we see a very, very special aspect of this last visit of Sanae Takaichi to Washington. That was humiliating, I would say. So that was the body language of the slave, of the perfect slave. So I think that the prime minister of Japan behaved herself as the victims on Epstein's Island. So that was really disgusting. So how you could be independent sovereign civilization and behave itself in this way. So I think that is colony. Japan is colony with zero independence and zero sovereignty. That at the same time, Japan is very ancient Buddhist and civilization, Shinto Buddhist civilization. It had its point, hour of glory, and it could restore its identity, its roots. But if you behave that way as the Takaichi behaved, nothing confirms that we are dealing with civilization. That is just something insulting and humiliating position. Maybe they try to get out of American replay. Maybe that is the behavior of the victim that wants to run away from Epstein Island, and in order to that, she used some tricks. So that was seen from outside. That was absolutely disgusting.
Indeed. Professor, the next question is related to this recent development between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Given the contentious relation between these two countries connecting Central and South Asia, do you think that any project for a greater or more integrated Eurasia is possible?
So that is very difficult question. So we had our own experience with Pashtuns, with Afghans people. British Empire had its own history and experience, and Pakistan as well. So nobody could rule them. So this Pashtuns, it's something, the things in itself, the content thing. So they represent something whose logic we could not grasp. It is not behavior of political body. It is the behavior of very special, nomad, very warrior civilization, and they don't want to change, and they have the right to stay what they are. But we could not apply to Afghans, for example, Pakistanis, Indian, Western, Russian, Central Asian criteria or rules, measures. So we should find the key for them. It is not about, we could not destroy them. That is impossible. They are somehow immortal. So we could not overcome them. So they I think, in itself, Ding kann sich in German. So, and we need to first of all to study them, because we approach them with our prejudices about what they should be, this territory of the tribes, but they are something else. So Pushtun Valai, for example, their ethnic tradition is very different. So they are Muslims in one way, but much more important, they are Pushtun. And this Pushtunian identity needs to be first of all studied correctly, because Iran see them with Iranian lens, you with Pakistani lens. Everybody sees Pashtuns and Taliban and Afghans with their own lens, but they are different. So that is why nobody could understand them, and that is why nobody could find the way to have the positive and constructive relations with them. Pakistan tried to use them as tool against Soviet invasion. It seems very good, but now you have backlash of that. So because you gave them too much power, too much self-reliance, and so on. So you could not use them. They are some very special society, and I think that in order to get access to them, maybe to study Sufi tradition. They now are Salafi, they are not so much Sufi, but still in the ancient Pushtun tribes were very affected by Sufism, Middle Asian Sufism and Indian Sufism. So I think that Tasawwuf could be key, and deep study of their ethnical identity as well. So it is not easy thing, and I think they could play not negative but positive role in reconstruction of the Asia. But we need to have the plan. So I don't think that we could just win them, just conquer them. It is impossible. So we need to find something else. We tried, we lost. And now when they have in their power all the big country of Afghanistan, so they could represent the serious problem for Pakistan, because precisely of this huge territory peopled by Pushtun, by this tribe's territory. So I think that is very serious question. It is not about good or bad, but they are not absolutely globalists. They are, but they could be used in some situation by globalists, by unipolarity in some way. But the same for the others. So because you have said that already, that Pakistan has not defined yet finally its position in this global structure. So maybe this hesitation that is reflected as in a mirror, and the hesitation of what position to take in the case of Afghans. So that is very complicated question. What is sure that Afghanistan now cannot be a kind of strong political structure. It is too divided, but Pushtun's factor is the essential and need to be studied carefully.
Thank you very much. Given the fact that the same terrorist issue is a threat for Russia as well, and that's what we are dealing here in Pakistan, unfortunately. And once you talk about the Sufism, it reminds me that once you mentioned Dr. Syed Hussain Nasser and his writings, and I think all of us should be looking into his writings. They are magnificent. So our last question is related to India, and our audience, they wants to know your opinion of multipolarity that emphasizes the position of India as a civilizational core and where India can be the center of the Southern Asian region. However, many in Pakistan fear that this might marginalize Pakistani interests. How do we ensure that the rise of one India as a civilizational pole does not come at the expense of its neighbor Pakistan's security and territorial integrity?
So first of all, I think that the rise of India is something inevitable. So it is a fact. Are we willing or not? The India is on the rise, demographically, politically, economically. It could not be limited, and I think that the Narendra Modi's politics have found a very important resource inside of Indian society. That is resource of the Hindu roots. So that I am not evaluate that good or bad, one thing, but let's see the truth that this appeal to the deep Vedic identity of Indian people has provoked very huge energy inside of India. So that is the kind of fuel, this kind of inner energy of Indian society that could look like nationalism and some kind of hatred, anti-Islamic. It is at some point. So there is negative aspect. There are some positive aspects, but it is as such. So India is on the rise, precisely basing on the appeal to the deep identity. And Rajiv Gandhi and this more moderate liberal Indian politics, it could not provoke the real enthusiasm in the society because they are pro-Western. They oppose the rise of Indian spirit with the ideas. Oh no, individual human rights, individualism. Let's be totally tolerant and so on. So let us liberate the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So this discourse, just liberal humanitarian discourse, doesn't provoke the passion of the Indian society. But I think that at the same time, this growth of Hinduism in India could be compatible with very tolerant attitude to Islam, to Pakistan, to this part of Indian history. So it is depicted in a very negative way in the discourse and the global, in the ruling dominant narrative in India, but it could be changed. But we could not say, oh, stop India, not grow anymore. It's impossible. India will grow. So we could not undermine that growth. We could not fight them, and we have no reason to find them directly. So we need to find a way to understand each other. For example, and I think that India is attracted to multipolarity much more than maybe the other countries. So India is civilizational state, is attracted by multipolarity, but it is a kind of there is temptation to blame Islam for negative issues in history, in modern day politics. That is wrong, but it should be changed. But I think that the India needs to start new deep dialogue with Islamic population of India itself. There are millions, many millions of Muslims living there, and normally they would not only be the organic part of the Indian society, but they could be the bridge of mutual understanding with Pakistan, with Bangladesh. So we need to consider, for example, if India and Pakistan are conceived to be on the multipolar side, so the task to how to unite or harmonize the relations becomes common task. So we Russians, we are interested to promote that. Chinese are interested to promote that. India and Muslims. So everybody will try to cooperate in this task. So I think we should not blame anybody. So it's first of all, inside of this multipolar club, we need to find the positive way. And I have mentioned my Pakistani friend Ejaz Akram, who was the great philosopher, traditionalist, as you have mentioned, Nasser. So Ejaz Akram was follower of René Guénon, as myself. I'm Christian Orthodox, but I consider myself as the disciple of this great Islamic thinker, René Guénon, who converted into Islam. So I think that traditionalism and that deep dialogue between the religions, that is the solution. So we could not find the easy solutions on the superficial level. On the superficial level, there is only contradictions. But if we get deeper in the religions, in the traditions, and the sacred teaching of, so we could find common denominators there. So there are, for example, Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity, Orthodox Christianity. They are totally different religions. So very few things in common. But we could promote the common understanding and to find the solution how to stop the hostilities between our faiths and beliefs and to find common points. So I think that this spiritual diplomacy is very important. We shouldn't underestimate that. And after comes political conclusion, geopolitical conclusion. So we need to start with the most important things. And we started to promote such kind of dialogue with my friend Ejaz Akram, but he is dead. That is the huge tragedy. So now we started to promote that on a high level in Pakistan because he occupied very important position to being advisor of prime minister for the time being. So, but I think that this initiative should be prolonged, should be continued, and I think that we are just instrument of the God's will, so nothing more. So, if someone is not with us, there will be the other. So God will put the other to accomplish the mission that is needed to be accomplished.
Thank you so much, Professor. And can you imagine that there are 30 more questions in our message box, and but we have limited time, and you're so famous that 100 people are in this session, and multiple forums, they are watching you, especially on the YouTube, and we would like to request you to give us more time some other time. And right now, I would formally like to invite Dr. Khurram Iqbal. He's president of CAPES, and he would like to conclude the session and deliver the vote of thanks. Dr. Khurram, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gule Aisha, Professor Alexander Dugin. It's an exclusive privilege and pleasure to have you with us at the Consortium for Asia Pacific and Eurasian Studies discussing the idea of Eurasianism. You're absolutely right when you say that the world was about to declare the triumph of multipolarity before America struck back, and through use of raw power, it restored the equilibrium in its own favor and restored unipolarity again. And when America was restoring unipolarity through its actions in Syria and then Venezuela and then Iran, the response or inaction from other contestants of power, especially China and Russia, has also raised multiple questions in the global south, in the middle powers as well. As you have rightly pointed out, that Russia and China might be doing more what meets the eyes, but I think during the times of war, it is very important to be seen acting. And I'm afraid that with such kind of a response, Russia and China, they have discouraged any effort at the level of states and society to basically go for multipolarity, to revise the existing world order, which has become abusive or which, according to some, has ruptured in its entirety. But during last few months, we have seen that perhaps American hegemony is going to stay, raw power is real power, and middle and small powers are left to fend for themselves while the US reinstates itself as the sole superpower in the world. As far as Pakistan is concerned, only a few years ago, this idea of Eurasianism was central to our strategic outlook. That's why the country pivoted from geostrategy to geoeconomics with this idea of regional connectivity central to our regional and international outlook. That is why in 2022, when we publicized the first national security policy of Pakistan, we envisioned a region that is reconnected, where the ancient roots of trade are revitalized. With that vision, we offered an olive branch to a number of countries around Pakistan. But unfortunately, this effort by Pakistan to restore Eurasia has met with two significant challenges. One challenge on our west, where the return of the traditionalists, Afghan Taliban, have hindered any attempt by Pakistan to basically go for Eurasian vision. What we see in Afghanistan at the moment, that they have decided to act ideologically instead of acting pragmatically in the larger interest of Afghan people, in the larger interest of South Asia, Central Asia, and Eurasia. There is this issue of terrorism, which does not only impact Pakistan, but number of attacks in Central Asia, including Russia and China, they have been traced back to Afghanistan. So until Afghanistan is stabilized, which we believed is the heart of Asia, I think the efforts to restore Eurasia would go in vain. The second challenge that we faced to revive this idea of Eurasianism was from this ultra-nationalist regime in India. I wish that the Hindutva government in India was as committed to civilizational ideas of cooperation as you have put it, but unfortunately, this India, led by BJP, it envisions, it proposed, it advocated an idea of regionalism that by default excluded Pakistan. This idea of new regionalism excluded Pakistan from every multilateral forum that India has created during last 10 years. So with these two neighbors on our east and west, both acting traditionally, I would say that this idea of civilization Pakistan
Dr.
is
Kurum
in
will.
Yes, I'll just conclude. Pakistan is in process of redefining itself amidst all this global transformation. We seek to frame Pakistan as a modern progressive Islamic state, which is more driven by self-interest, because that is what is dictating the international relations at the moment. Because when hegemon decides to act unilaterally, you are left to fend for yourself. And in such a situation, I think civilizational cooperation remains a distinct idea. We would love to have you more with us to discuss the features of this idea of Eurasianism. When we announced this talk by yourself, Dr. Gul Aisha is absolutely right. There was tremendous interest inside Pakistan, outside Pakistan, and I'm sure our audience have learned a great deal. But would like to request you more time to discuss in more details as to how this idea of Eurasianism stands amidst this global transformation. I would like to thank you again. I would like to extend my gratitude to Dr. Gule Aisha for arranging this talk, Dr. Faisal Javed, Senior Vice President, and the team CAPS for organizing such a successful event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you.